Hi, my name is Peter Sigur Uikroche, and this is my top 10 video games list for teaching. The list is based on how each game could help young learners and older learners understand concepts, expand their word repertoire, and also gain some knowledge about different topics. In this video, we'll be going through an assortment of games, video games to be precise. This is not to say that other forms of gaming are lesser, but to show how teachers could implement video games into their own practice.
Are you serious?
There's also a lot of honorable nominations right after the top 10. So buckle up, we're diving into the digital world of video games. Now, first off, we have to talk about the fact that video games have a place in the classroom. But as our technologies gain more and more processing power and now are almost taking over their own creator's job, just look at the AI industry, we teachers need to be ever more knowledgeable about how our pupils interact with these technologies and what these technologies can do. No matter if this seems utopian or dystopian, video games have already left their mark on history and have dwarfed any other entertainment industry. Gaming even gave the rise to the success of Nvidia, which now makes parts that are the brainpower for almost all of the Western AI industry. Even 3D rendering technology has become so close to reality that media stations accidentally reported a video from a video game, Arma 3, as actual war footage. Arma 3 is a realistic military simulator made by a Czech game company and is very popular. Although the game is a war simulator, a lot of people enjoy the tactical slowness of realistic military simulation, which the game markets itself as. But anyway, back to the central point. The video game industry has become so large that it almost seems solved. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the video game franchise FIFA, then you see a perfect example of something being solved. In FIFA, you can buy these booster packs that contain cards, exactly like real life booster packs like Pokemon or some other Yu-Gi-Oh or something. But it isn't exactly like a real booster pack because it doesn't exist outside the screen. There is no real production cost for EA, the creators of FIFA, so they can set the price of these booster packs to whatever they want without ever producing a single physical card. This technology, or use of technology, is called in-game purchases. And EA wasn't the first to use it with FIFA, but they were the ones that really found out how to abuse this system for maximum gain. An early example of this is a horse that you could buy in World of Warcraft and ride around as a mount. A mount is just a horse that either speeds you up or lets you fly. And you could buy it with real money. But at that point, the mount was seen as something like, you would pay to win. You would pay to get some benefit in the game that you hadn't earned through gameplay. And that would be seen as not cheating, but not playing the game correctly and giving in to the temptations of having a mount when you weren't supposed to have a mount yet. But the problem really starts to rise with free-to-play games. Here you have games that go from being free to play, where you have some monetary incentive to get the player to pay, that aren't that malicious, but when they become malicious, that's when they turn into free to pay games. The best example of this is Candy Crush. It's free, so you get the game and play it for a while, and you pay nothing, but if you play for long enough, the incentives start to show themselves, and at some point you seemingly can't win without paying a small price. That's where it starts. You're now willing to pay so you can play a game that is designed to make you want to pay to win. These people who are the ones that keep free-to-play games this way and are paying a lot into them are called whales because they keep the entire economy of these video games up and running smoothly. The games are designed for these specific people to pay as much as possible. They try to engage them, and then they try to get them to pay for the engagement. Candy Crush, like FIFA, is a service that is turned into a video game. And the incentive for not the video game company per se, but the publisher of the video game, the ones that are taking all the big decisions and how this is going to be marketed and funded, can lead a otherwise very, very competent and artistic video game studio to create something that is designed around being a service and falls short of its full potential of being a piece of real art. So let's summarize this. When a game has these pay-to-win elements within it, the core design philosophy changes, because the video game turns from being art and turns into a service. We want the young learners to interact with the video games that are art and not accidentally make them addicted to a game about crushing candy. Many of the video games in the upcoming list are priced games, but priced games are more often high art and made by extremely talented people, who often dedicate entire years on a project, which has little to no chance for success if you don't model your game as a service, or sell your intellectual property to a publisher who maybe wants to have booster packs and a fancy horse that you can buy in your video game. And finally, before we get to the list, this list is curated by me, Pedro Sigurd Vikreuze, and my experience with video games. Number 10. Noun Town Language Learning. This game is a stylistic and well-designed alternative to Duolingo, the language learning app. In this game, you have to use your microphone to say words in front of you. Different locations have different objects, and it's all about getting all of them said correctly. When you say them correctly, the color of the world grows and inhabitants move back into the world that you can converse with and test your knowledge of a language. This game really helps with the learner's word acquisition and even pronunciation. The game has more flair than most games in this genre, and even has an accompanying story to everything you're doing, all hidden under a veil of a stylistic video game. Number 9. The Jackbox games. To join a Jackbox game lobby, you either need a smartphone, tablet, or computer. Some of the games include drawing and can be used by the youngest of learners, while others can be used for language and knowledge acquisition. But games like Fibbage expect the contenders to write their own answers and have some knowledge about, for example, pop culture. The Jackbox games require one computer to start the game or have the lobby, which means that only one person needs to own the game for the entire class to join. Of course, some of the games are only 4-player, but some games have the capacity to include the entire classroom. Number 8. Writing games. Now, I know that writing games are a genre and not a game in itself, but how can you blame me? There are so many good games that both teach writing speed and writing precision. So I decided to make number 8 include all of the writing games that could be used in a classroom for different levels and for different interests. The first writing game is Typing of the Dead. And this game is a classic game and is one of the pioneers of the genre. You are in a zombie apocalypse and you have to type the words on the zombies to shoot them. The difficulty can be adjusted according to appropriate learning level, and if done correctly, can both engage and teach fast writing techniques, with the learners not even realizing they're doing a writing exercise. The game uses the zombies or the monsters as a way of engaging the player to write as fast as possible and with as few mistakes as possible to reach the highest score. Another writing game is Hack Up, Ultimate Hacker Simulator, which is an immersive and captivating game that teaches the basics of hacking, which is a topic that we teachers shouldn't approach lightly. But maybe if we see a learner trying to hack something, like trying to hack the school system or something, we could use this game as an outlet if introduced correctly. Hacking gets a bad rep because we see so much of the bad sides. But we also have something called white hat hackers who help companies and systems trying to expose the vulnerabilities of these systems without abusing them. Another interest-based pick is Piano Glow. which is a solo, online co-op and versus multiplayer game where you can use your computer keyboard to play a piano, or just plug in any MIDI piano into your computer and you should work without much effort. This game could become an instrumental part of a learner's ability to grow and reach new musical heights in the future. It is, after all, a game where you play piano. The next game in the writing genre is a game called Final Sentence. This game is a bit weird and I'll just read the description of the game. Final Sentence is a battle royale typing game. Together with other players, you find yourself in a hangar with a typewriter in front of you and a revolver loaded with a single bullet at your temple. Every mistake can be fatal, only one will remain. Damn, that's grim. But if you want English writing to be a matter of life or death for your learners, then the game supports private lobbies for up to 8 players. That's enough to make a multi-round competition. Of course, this game would be more for older learners, but a creative teacher could see this as a possibility of enhancing both writing skill and writing precision and writing speed. And not just enhancing, but making it into a real competition. So the next writing game is the most absurd and niche pick. It's called Cryptmaster. I've never played it, but I mean, just look at it. It looks like if H.P. Lovecraft came back to life to release a writing game. A reviewer who fully finished the game said, and I quote, "Cryptmaster is a game with riddles. It allows freedom, in which you can type any letter you want throughout the game to do anything, whether it's just talking to NPCs or fighting enemies. You can literally say anything and the game will produce a reaction." Unquote. These mechanics in themselves are impressive, but don't necessarily make a good game. But seeing that the game has a 94% positive user rating, I think that tells us that the game is worth it. And now, the last writing game, Glyphia Typing Survival. This is a game that brings in roguelike game mechanics into a wave-based tower defense game about typing. It can't get much better than this. If used over a longer period, learners will see their words per minute improve with their spelling more refined, and they gain it from playing a roguelike tower defense typing game. You might not understand all of these game-defining words yet, but researching a bit about video games, you'll soon realize how huge the roguelike and tower defense games are as a genre. They're a beloved genre, and this game, Glyphia, puts them both together into a very, very nice package that can be used in the classroom. Number 7, Rematch. So if there are football/soccer interested pupils or learners in your classroom, Rematch is a perfect fit for them to learn cooperation and executing plays as a team. Instead of FIFA, where you have a top-down view, in Rematch you have a third-person view of your character and you have more autonomy over your character, and everyone can be the goalie when just going back to the goal. It's a very stylized game compared to FIFA, which is trying to portray reality, while Rematch tries to encapsulate a bit of what gaming can do with the maps and everything, and all the football rules don't really apply in the game. But instead of giving the kids access to FIFA, where the booster packs are, this game only has cosmetic items, which only changes the look of your character, which is generally more accepted in the gaming industry. Rematch is the perfect alternative to FIFA and can even give the learners who are uninterested in football a chance to get interested. Number 6, Peak. Peak is a video game about climbing mountains. So you and up to 4 other players are struggling climbing a mountain. And the game is all about cooperation and resource management. Laying a plan for climbing the mountain is often way more productive and uses less resources instead of just jumping up and just climbing the first mountain you see. Often that leads to you falling down and then dying. Of course, there are ways to get back into the game, but there are real consequences to falling off and dying. This game can be used as team building more than anything else. It's a lot of fun, but it also requires people to work together, and there's even some possibility of bullying. You can push people off the mountain, which as teachers, we sometimes want to see how the bullying manifests. And with this game, we can see how the learners interact in a high, or well, mid to high stress scenario. Number 5. The next game on the list is almost like Peak in a way, where you probably want to use this for team building and just general relation building between two learners. The game is a cooperative puzzle game, you could say. Well, it's a hidden puzzle game because the puzzles are... How do I say? You are a goose that is trying to disturb the peace of humanity. That's one way of putting it. And your job is to figure out how to disturb it as much as possible. And you do that together and try to sneak around without getting caught as geese. So there's a fun element to it. The absurdity of the game and the concept of the game really lends itself to two learners who might not be very friendly with each other, where you want to see them building a relation, or at least a better relation. Number 4, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a game where you inherit a farm out in the farmland. And you are a city dweller who now owns this farm and has to make it run. And the game has social interactions with other characters and a whole story, a backstory and everything. And is complete with a very, very robust harvesting and growing mechanic. And also is one of the only games with these mechanics that is more slow paced and is more realistic in its, well, you could say, timings. You have to sleep, you have only so much energy, you can only talk to this many people a day, and the stores are only open when the people are there. This game has become a cult classic, especially with female gamers, because this is something they've been wanting to see, but action games and action survival games often dominate this genre. And Stardew Valley somehow found a midline where both male and female feel that this game is very, very complete and feature rich. The learners also enhance their word repertoire when it comes to produce and just general things around the world. Number 3, Blueprints. So Blueprints is a puzzle game that is procedurally generated with set rooms that you unlock over time. It has a rich story with a lot of things to figure out, and is said to be one of the best puzzle games ever created. The puzzles are hard, but they're fair, and you can always find new nuggets of information scattered around these various rooms. And it's also a resource management puzzle game, where you only have a set amount of steps each day before the entire house, like all the floors and the floor plans you laid, have to reset, and you have to try again to reach the last room. Blueprints is a game that should be played without being spoiled. So playing this in a classroom, you might only have a few chances to have a real experience with this, or before the learners start Googling the answers. Number 2, Slay the Spire 1 and Slay the Spire 2. Slay the Spire 1 and 2 are so similar that we can combine them into one game. Which game you want to get is totally up to you. I would say number 2 has some more refined mechanics, even though it's still in early access. Early access just means that the game isn't really finished yet and there will be new updates, and it's not the final product. But what you can learn in Slay the Spire is enhancing your word repertoire immensely. You have cards that you get that have names on them, like strike, backflip, exhaust, all these kinds of things that are advanced but are also shown on a picture on the card. Of course, the cards are for destroying the enemy or blocking damage from the enemy or something, a power or some sort. But the words on there are complicated, but still not complicated enough where you are totally lost. You can also just play them and figure it out. The game is also said to be the best, or the two games, the best card games on PC or on computer. So introducing them to this game, which has no microtransactions and has no other entry fee but the price of the game, you will instill a high competency for gaming in the learner's mind, since it's such a high quality piece of art that they will see other games that are trying to mimic it and see them as lesser if they have these added microtransactions. It's almost like a litmus test. Have you played Slay the Spire? Then you know what a good card game looks like. on PC, of course. Number 1. Tabletop Simulator. So on the surface, Tabletop Simulator looks like... yeah, well, it doesn't look like much. The base game has some tabletop games, but with Tabletop Simulator, you can simulate any board game by just downloading it from the workshop in Steam. If the learners have Tabletop Simulator, if all of them have Tabletop Simulator, then all tabletop games can be simulated. This opens a world of possibilities for the teacher. You can play any tabletop game in existence that has been added as a mod or into the game, without paying the full price of the tabletop game. This is a way for you as a teacher or the learners to figure out which game does what well and which game probably isn't that fun, instead of paying the full prices for them every time. So you can play it either on Tabletop Simulator online or local, and then buy the physical game if that's what you want. The learners can even find a tabletop game they want to try and read the rules and figure out how to play by themselves. This gives them the opportunity to find something that they are interested in, and that will almost certainly lead to a better result in understanding the rules and how the game plays and if the game is fun or not. The possibilities are endless with Tabletop Simulator. And now the honorable mentions. Of course, we have to add Minecraft and Minecraft Education. These are so important games for just the gaming culture in general, and Minecraft Education has shown us that even the big companies that own the biggest IPs, such as Minecraft, can create something for everyone to learn from. But since the video is already so long, let's just wrap it up. I'm guessing the biggest question is, how can we use these video games in the classroom? Well, it's complicated and it depends on a variety of factors. Back in the day, you would have computer rooms, often with decently powerful computers for the time, but now most of the schools expect the pupils to have their own low-grade laptop, and often that's a Chromebook. And Chromebooks, yeah, well, they can't play anything except for something played on a browser. The only game that really works on a Chromebook that has been listed is the Jackbox games. But if a given school would be willing and has the capital and space for it, restoring the computer lab would be an exciting option, where each computer has their own login and games on Steam. But it's not the only option. You could also play the games from a mid to high power laptop and use a cable to connect it to any smartboard. This would work wonders with games like Blueprints, where the learners could decide on how to use the resources in a democratic way and teach them how to work together for the same goal, getting to the last locked room. Also with the Jackbox games, you'd only need a low-tier laptop to run it on a smartboard, and all the learners would be able to attend with a smartphone, and yes, even a Chromebook. Another option with the whiteboard is showing expertise. For me, an avid gamer, I could show my skills in front of a 8th or 9th grade class and quickly build relations with one of the hardest groups of learners for teachers to appeal to, the gamers. Here I would let the class relax and do almost whatever they want, but with the only caveat they have to be quiet and only talk about the game being shown. Of course, it wouldn't be harshly enforced, it's supposed to be a relation building exercise, and it's relaxed. But with this, I would put on a cinematic horror game that I have beat over 10 times, Resident Evil 4 Remaster, where I know exactly what will happen at what point, and where all the secrets are, and how to win easily and with losing as few resources as possible. It would be a movie-like experience for the not-so-interested learners. But if a teacher shows the learners that their teacher is friendly, knowledgeable, and inclusive, but also knowledgeable and good at video games that require skill and composure, a whole new world of connection between teacher and learner opens up. A lot of kids, the last 2 decades or so, have watched YouTubers, and many of them started out as gaming YouTubers, or still are producing gaming content. It's become normalized, so we need to know how to approach it like any other interest, with respect. We as teachers need to realize that those gaming YouTubers often have a better hold on the learner's attention than we do. That's why it's so important that if we want to connect with the uninterested learners, that they see some of their idols in us and also some of themselves in us. My teacher is smart, fair and kind, but he is also the best at insert game in the school. We want them to say that. We also open up the possibility for the learners to become better than us at the games. And that shows you did a great job at both teaching the game, but also you somehow made them so interested that they, the learners, either intentionally or not, understand the underlying mechanics of the game better than you. Fast reaction speed and decision making is hard to teach. But with video games, you can hone those skills in a learner without them even realizing that they are learning and honing a skill. Being able to talk about gaming in a classroom is paramount for capturing the gamer's interest. If you have 10 soccer players in a class and you don't understand the offside rule that they are discussing, you have nothing to add to their conversation and everything to lose on your level of connection. Demeaning an after-school activity like gaming in front of learners who play video games is nothing but bad teaching. We teachers need to realize that video games must have a place in the classroom, just like board games, essays, and worksheets. It just needs to be implemented thoughtfully and responsibly, like everything else. My name is Peter Sigurd-Krootje, and I hope you found this video somewhat interesting and thought-provoking. But most of all, I appreciate you for watching all the way through. Tack för det.